Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda. Wineskins features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with thoughts on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. It is brought to you by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our show today, we will enjoy an interview that I have with Amy Roshak, featuring the St. Paul Outreach. We will also look at the life and times of all the saints, and we will hear a reflection on the readings for this 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more coming up on Wineskins. In our current issue today, I will speak with Matt Abramowski. With me is Matt Abramowski, who is the Program Director at the Villa Maria Educational and Spirituality Center in Villa Maria, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Wineskins.
It's good to be with you again, Father.
You know, whenever we get together and talk about that wonderful center out there at the Villa that's really so near to many of us here in the Diocese of Youngstown, it's always good to know what drives the Villa to do what they do. So talk briefly about the charism of the sisters and how it's really the moving force.
The Villa is the home of the Humility of Mary Sisters. And Mother Madeleine, who founded the community in France, her line was, "Our door is always open to anyone who wants to come to our home for the glory and honor of God." And so a real sense of hospitality and welcoming people has been a big ministry of the community. And through that lens, too, has gone so many of their ministries. They have a farm out there, and half of everything they donate gets donated to local food banks, soup kitchens, and places like that. So not just welcoming people to the Villa, but that sense of hospitality, of looking around, identifying needs that aren't being met and responding to them, is the driving force of the sisters and then of all the ministries that are part of their community.
Many years ago, my sister went to the Villa and graduated from the high school there, as did many of the young women in and around our valley and around the country, actually. But those ministries of the Humility of Mary Sisters have really changed over the years. We know that they're very big in the hospital ministry as well. Tell us about some of those ministries that continue in their name.
Sure. You mentioned the school, Father, and so many people who come to the Villa, either if they didn't go to school there themselves, they know someone who went there. And so they are still active in education. They sponsor an all-girls school on the west side of Cleveland, Magnificat High School. And then our ministry, the Education and Spirituality Center, makes use of the space at the Villa that used to house the high school. On the Villa's land, what I referenced earlier is the working farm that continues to this day. The sisters are very active still in parishes, in schools, in healthcare. What's now Mercy Health used to be Humility of Mary Health Partners, started with the very first St. Elizabeth Hospital right at Villa Maria to take care of railroad workers in Lowellville, and obviously that has grown into a whole network. So the sisters are very diverse in the ministries they're involved with. They always try to identify needs that aren't being met and try to respond to them in a very loving and compassionate way.
We know that there's the Villa apartments out there, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that because we all know somebody who lives out there or who did live out there. So tell us about the apartments.
The apartments have been at the Villa for over 25 years now, and it's connected to the Mother House building. Therefore, folks who are in their upper 50s and able to live independently, you have your own apartment. You can prepare your own meals if you'd like. For those who don't want to cook, you can take a meal plan through the dining room. And then you have access to all the amenities at the Villa, from the swimming pool to the post office, to the art house, to the outdoor labyrinth. And very often, many of the folks who live at the apartments join in with the sisters for liturgy and other social activities. So not only does it offer a place to live, but a real sense of community.
And I think for anyone who's had the opportunity to go out there to the Villa knows that the grounds, first of all, are absolutely beautiful and very conducive to getting in touch with the Lord and with oneself spiritually. What would you like to let the folks know specifically about Villa Maria, not only the center, but Villa Maria in general?
I would like to encourage anyone who's not made the trip out to come out. It always humbles me from all the different folks who come to the Villa. A very common line that we hear is what a peaceful place they find it to be. And, you can be from the villa into the heart of Boardman within 25 minutes. So we're not very far away. We're just across the state line into Pennsylvania. And folks really return because of the peaceful, healing presence they experience while on the grounds. And it's directly related to the living faith of the sisters and the strong legacy that they've built there and their strong faith and trust in God. And so for anybody who's not been there, we encourage them even to make a day trip to walk and experience the grounds and just get a sense or a feel for the place, because we find that often once someone comes, they'll return many times in the future because of the great gift of God's peace and God's healing that folks experience on the land and in the community at Villa Maria.
Well, Matt Abramowski, it's certainly a pleasure to have you on Wineskins and to share with us the wonderful things that happen there at Villa Maria, Pennsylvania. We are longtime friends and devotees of the wonderful work out there, and so our continued prayers to you and to the many sisters who are involved there. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. To tell us more about all the saints is Brother Aloysius Milella. He is from the Society of St. Paul in Canfield.
The solemnity of the Feast of All Saints is probably Celtic in origin. The Martyrology of Ireland lists April 17th as a commemoration of all the martyrs, and April 20th as the Feast of all the Saints of Ireland, Britain, and the rest of Europe. In England, St. Bede's Martyrology has no mention of this feast, but in the 8th or the beginning of the 9th century, November the 1st is listed as the Feast of All Saints. At Rome, the feast was celebrated with a vigil and fasting in the 10th century, but Rome borrowed from the East the date, May the 13th. On this same date in 609, Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome as a church in honor of, quote, Mary ever Virgin and all the martyrs, unquote. The feast was celebrated in the Easter season to emphasize the paschal victory of the martyrs. We know from a sermon of St. John Chrysostom, however, that in the Byzantine Rite, the Feast of All Saints was celebrated on the first Sunday after Pentecost. The Feast of All Saints applies not only to all the canonized saints, but to all the souls that are in glory. Every person in heaven is a saint, because each one has reached the perfection of charity. There are 3 themes in the liturgy of this feast. First, in the opening prayer we say that we rejoice in the holy men and women of every time and place, and we ask their prayers will bring us God's forgiveness and love. The first theme is therefore our belief in the combined intercession of the saints. In the prayer over the gifts and the prayer after communion, mention is made of the glory of the saints, in which all the blessed will share. The second theme is therefore the concept of the Holy Jerusalem, which is the goal of our earthly pilgrimage. We journey in hope and with an awareness of the saints' concern to help and save us. The third theme is found in the prayer after communion, where reference is made to the table of the Eucharist and the joy of the kingdom, where Jesus is Lord forever and ever. Our faith tells us that we can pass from the Eucharistic table to the eternal banquet in heaven. The significance of the feast is given in the office of readings, in the sermon by St. Bernard, which replaces the former reading from St. Bede. Clearly, if we venerate their memory, it serves us, not them. But I tell you, when I think of them, I feel myself inflamed by a tremendous yearning. Calling the saints to mind inspires, or rather arouses in us, above all else, a longing to enjoy their company so desirable in itself. In short, we long to be united in happiness with all the saints. But our dispositions change. The church of all the first followers of Christ also await us, but we do nothing about it. The saints want us to be with them, and we seem to be indifferent. The souls of the just await us, and we ignore them. For Wineskins, I am Brother Aloysius Milella.
Joining me now for Wineskins is Amy Roshak, who is from St. Paul Parish in North Canton. Amy, it's a pleasure to have you on Wineskins.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And you bring this wonderful program to us, and I have to admit, before we started the taping, we were talking about it, and I had never heard about St. Paul Outreach. So give us a little background and history about it.
Yeah, so St. Paul's Outreach is a national organization that was started in 1985, and it was basically, the mission of it is to bring the Catholic faith alive to college campuses. So we do a lot of work with students, ministering to them, building community that can awaken their faith and form them into be lifelong disciples. And so when it was started, it was actually just founded on the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. It was just this one man who, wanted to reach his peers and help them come alive in the faith. And it became this really big thing that people started to really flock to. And so other campuses started thinking, oh, what if we did that here? And so from there, over the past 30 years, it started to spread to other campuses. And so now we're on 15 campuses in the country in, I think, about 8 different states, and still growing.
And tell us where you learned about St. Paul Outreach, what university?
Yeah, I was at Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, and I learned about it because I went on a retreat with our Newman Center, and it was there that my small group leader invited me over to her house after that retreat, and she was in one of the households that St. Paul's Outreach runs. So from there I got connected.
Now, when you talk about young people, is there kind of an age bracket that we're talking about? Sometimes we divide youth and young adults. So is there an age kind of limit that we're looking at?
Yeah, it's mostly focusing on college students.
Okay.
So, 18 to 22-ish, more or less, depending on the college age. Yeah.
Now, what happens when you get together in these groups? What is the main purpose besides being kind of nurtured and formed a little more in the Catholic faith?
Yeah, so the purpose is to provide opportunities for these students to be awakened in their faith, but then also to form them to be disciples the rest of their lives. So college is a really critical time where people are starting to form habits that shape who they are, as they go on to their careers, to their vocations, etc. And so we want this to be a time where they are actually receiving good formation, learning, how to have a relationship with God, how to live charitably, love thy neighbor, that type of thing. So we want to really form them to be disciples for the rest of their lives.
What I'd like to ask is the young people in the college communities that you come in contact with and minister with, are they people that are already pretty strong and firm in their faith, or are they people that might have been fallen away Catholics, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's actually some of both. So we do work with a lot of students who, come in and they want to get involved in their faith, and they find us right away. And so, they just kind of come on in and kind of like an easy catch type of thing. But then we do also do a lot of outreach on campus where we're looking for the people who are lost, who are, broken and really lonely and maybe have rejected the faith in the past. And now there's an opportunity for them to be invited back in. So it really is kind of a mix of the two.
What about those who might be interested in becoming Catholic, or those who have no faith? Is there an outreach to them as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know at Ohio State specifically, we would kind of just walk around campus and introduce ourselves to people and kind of see where that goes, build their relationship, see where they're at with their faith, that type of thing. And if it ends up being the case, if they are interested, then we'll help them with the next steps, bring them to the Newman Center or the parish nearby to help them go through that process.
Now, I think I know the answer to this, but why is it called St. Paul Outreach?
Yeah, so it's modeled after St. Paul and his evangelization, and really just his bold proclamation and his bold lifestyle, the way that he really lived in the Holy Spirit and brought others courageously back to the Lord.
What really drew you to this outreach ministry? Was it because of your already firm foundation in the faith, or was it because you wanted to learn more about your own faith or how to minister to others? What really brought you in closer union with the outreach group?
So I was actually at a place where I was pretty uncertain of my faith. You know, I'd been raised Catholic, and I'd like to say like formed decently well coming into college. But then when I went to college, I was faced with a decision of, do I want to make this my own or not? And I was actually kind of struggling with this idea of what role would faith have in my life. And that's when I went on this retreat, had a powerful experience where I learned that the Lord is like thirsting for me, that he loves me. But I was like, okay, I wanted to go all in for the Lord and like make him my everything and really grow in my faith, but I had no idea how to do that. You know, I like need people to show me. And then it was shortly after that I was invited to kind of check out St. Paul's Outreach, get to know these men and women. And it was there that I just saw people who were alive in their faith in a way that I'd never seen before. You know, they were like on fire every day, 24/7, not just Sundays, not just when they went to church, but like they were surrendering every day to the Lord. And that was very attractive to me, seeing the way that they were themselves, they were confident, they were fully alive. So yeah, that kind of drew me in.
Now, what happens after college? How does that ministry and how does that faith within you and within those that are part of it continue in your adult life?
Yeah, so we hope that this is something that they would continue. So St. Paul's Outreach, a lot of what we do is actually developing a lifestyle of prayer, of community. Those are things that are really important to continuing the faith. So we want our students to be able to continue their personal prayer lives, continue seeking out the sacraments to help sustain them. And also really important, we see community as a huge deal, for helping us really on our walk to the Lord. So finding, whether it's in a parish or whether it's religious life, some community that can really help them foster this growth.
Tell us what your hope would be down the road, especially with your involvement with St. Paul Outreach, but also how you might invite and encourage others to be part of it.
Yeah, so I'm actually serving as a missionary right now with St. Paul's Outreach. So that's like my full-time job, and it's something that would definitely be open to doing for a longer term, to just keep working on college campuses and bringing more men and women into the faith. If that's what the Lord has for me, if that's what he wants me to do. And if not, I think, wherever I end up, whether it's in a parish, whatever my vocation is, I want it to be something where I am constantly looking outward, constantly looking at the Lord's people and inviting them in.
So what would you say to the seasoned Catholics about young people, and what would you say to the young people about us older people?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I think to the seasoned people, I would say to hope, to really hope, because they are out there and there are men and women still who maybe, they are still far away from the church, but the Lord wants them. He is jealous for them, and he has ways at bringing his people back to him. So just don't lose hope, remain encouraged, and know that, whatever the situation is of the young people, they're going through a lot, and there's a lot happening in our world, but the Lord is bigger. He is victorious, and so he can bring them back. And see, to the young people about the seasoned people, I guess that's kind of talking to myself. There's obviously an age gap, and we were raised differently, the young people and the seasoned people. And so I think there's a lot of patience that needs to happen, a lot of understanding of how we grew up and what our circumstances are. And I think we can work together. I've seen it, with the seasoned people that I've been meeting with at my parish and whatnot. There is a relationship that can really happen there. And I have felt very encouraged by talking to some of the seasoned men and women at my parish. I think keeping on to those relationships and learning from them, there's a lot we can learn.
Well, Amy Roshak, it was certainly a pleasure to have you on Wineskins today. Thank you for your young adult ministry, which I would refer to as that. You're reaching out to young people, and we certainly appreciate your ministry, your mission, and your outreach, and we pray for you in that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. For more information and to listen to Wineskins, please visit the website www.doi.org of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown for more information. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Christopher Minutes, thoughts on making every day count. Here's Monsignor Jim Lisanti.
Today I'd like to share with you a Christopher prayer about the qualities of an effective leader. Blessed is the leader who knows where to go, why it matters, and how to get there. Blessed is the leader who knows no discouragement, who presents no alibi. Blessed is the leader who knows how to lead without being dictatorial. Blessed is the leader who acts out of concern for the common good and not for personal gratification. Blessed is the leader whose head is in the clouds but whose feet are on the ground. Blessed is the leader who considers the position an opportunity for service. For a free copy of this prayer, write to the Christophers, New York, New York, 10017, or visit our website at www.christophers.org. I'm Monsignor Jim Lasanti. Make it a great day.
Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
Our music today is provided by Father Joe Higginbotham, courtesy of Saints Francis and Clare Press. It is from their CD called To You We Give All Praise.
Lord, make me an instrument of your blessed peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Where there is injury, bring your pardon, Lord. Where there is doubt and fear, faith in you outpoured. Where there is great despair, hope in you must reign. Where there is darkness, bring your light again. Where there is sadness, let me bring your joy. Every gift that I now have, you may now employ. O divine Master, grant that I not see consolation but a heart humble, pure, and meek, not to be understood as to understand, to bring love as you would love, let me be your hand. It is in our giving that we do receive. It is in our pardoning that we are set free. It is in our dying that we are reborn to a life of joy and peace, to eternal morn.
On this, the 30th Sunday of Ordinary Time, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Deacon Ed Laubacher. He is from St. Paul Church in North Canton.
I have been a track coach or a track official for over 30 years. I love the sport of track and field. I primarily coach at the middle school level, but officiate meets at the middle and high school level now. The official handbook for track officials now encompasses 3 different manuals. One that includes all the rules for each event, one that is strictly for officials and their duties, and one that only includes hundreds of examples of potential rule infractions and the explanations. I read through them every spring in order to keep myself up to date on the rules, yet I often forget some minor details and have to frequently revisit the rule books to remind myself throughout the season. I have often wondered what civilizations will think of our rule books if they were somehow lost and were found hundreds of years from now. Will those people think we were incredibly strange to have so many rules about how to run a simple race? Will they think we went completely overboard with all the tiny uniform infractions that can occur, and whether or not someone is allowed to have a certain insignia on their uniform or not, and that it better not be more than 2 inches wide? At the time of Christ, the Jewish scholars of the law had taken the original 10 commandments of the Lord as given to Moses and increased them to a total of 613 laws. These laws became so specific and included such things as specific rubrics for washing dishes and cups prior to use, what foods were considered clean or contaminated, and many laws regarding violence and the acquisition of slaves. These rule books would have been quite cumbersome, and it was nearly impossible for anyone who was not quite wealthy to follow all the rules. They simply did not have the means to do so. Therefore, in this highly patriarchal society, those who were the weakest, the widows, the orphans, and the aliens, had nearly no rights because there was no Jewish male to speak for them, and because there was not any way for them to adhere to all the laws. Therefore, they could not follow all the laws. They were also treated with great disdain because their position in life was attributed to their sinful nature. Christ is attempting to turn these rules and beliefs upside down. He is stating that in the end, nothing much matters except how you treat others and how you treat your God. All these other rules belong way out on the periphery because they have nothing to do with an individual's relationship with the Lord or with others. They are simply more exclusionary rather than inclusive. In our first reading from Exodus, the Lord is reminding the people that they must not take advantage of widows, orphans, aliens, that they must not take advantage of anyone who is weaker for several reasons. First, because they were also aliens in Egypt and were treated with great compassion during the famine. They should remember what that felt like. Moreover, they must treat everyone with respect and with dignity and with compassion, because this is how the Lord deals with them, and they are supposed to try to be like Him. Nearly 1,200 years later, Christ is reminding the Sadducees and Pharisees of the same message. Focus on the big stuff in life. Don't let the minor details get in the way of what is most important. And what is most important is that we love God with everything we have, that we treat Him as our King and attempt to serve Him and to be like Him. We are to seek His way of holiness, His way of compassion, His way of treating others. We are to treat our neighbors, indeed all people, with the same love and respect that we would wish for ourselves. These are the big rules. These are what we are to focus on. These are guiding us to how we must love. Let these rules supersede everything else. Don't attempt to make it too complicated. When we were children and would race, it was all pretty simple. The race started, and we ran to a certain destination, and we knew who won. It works the same way in God's kingdom, except anyone who gets to the destination is a winner, and we are attempting to help everyone get there. Make it your aim this week to help everyone you meet, alien or friend, rich or poor, those lost or those who know their way. Help them all on their journey with a love of compassionate God. For Wineskins, I'm Deacon Ed Laubacher.
The Word of God instructs us that we are all God's children and calls us to care for one another. We must always remember how much God has given us and ask, how can we initiate and imitate God's generosity? How can I make a return to the Lord for all that He has graciously given me? Wineskins is made possible through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Our program is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Korda, thanking you for being with us today. Have a blessed week, and remember that this coming Wednesday, the Feast of All Saints, is a holy day of obligation.